Hey folks, this is Ben Gessel. This is kind of a part two of what I was talking about earlier. And I have to mention maybe some other things about some of the thoughts I've had recently that might be worth sharing for you guys. And I want to make a video also about what I've been watching more recently on YouTube, which actually I might touch on more, actually I might get into more in this video. Well, we were talking about a lot of things in the last one. Last video. You know, by the way, I very much have a sort of personality where everything that I've ever experienced in life, I still experience over and over again in my dreams. And it's just something that is a part of my nature. It's not like someone can choose to be thick-skinned or thin-skinned, regardless of what Jocko Willing thinks about, oh, you can be tough. That's great. Yeah. But, many people simply don't have the wherewithal to be quite as thick-skinned as a Navy SEAL. I don't know. Maybe that's a subject for another time. See, the thing about Jocko, by the way, is that he means well. He's a good man. So even if he gets some things wrong from time to time, no one doubts that he's a good guy. And so many times that's the way things are in life. If someone gets something wrong, or slightly just isn't quite as comprehensive in what they're saying, isn't quite as pinpoint accurate. At least sometimes you could say, with some people at least, well, at least they're a good person. Right? So you could say that with Jocko. I believe he's a good person. Sometimes there's always a question of how good, but when I say good, I mean this is the type of person I can talk to comfortably without being like uneasy, right? Okay, well, so I've been watching primarily some stuff by a guy who worked very closely with Ed and Lorraine Warren. Joey, not Joey, I'm sorry, Tony Spara. Tony Spara. I probably mentioned this a little bit before another video. And, this is just the way things are on YouTube. You have a lot of interest in a certain subject, or some degree of interest, at least, and you watch content on YouTube, and you might want to think very highly of somebody who's, in charge of a channel or providing this content. I mean, like, you want to think highly of them personally. Might want to chat with them more. Even if it's just something hobbyish, or just, hey, shout out to, whatever. Just giving a shout out, a video or something. Whatever it is, whatever the nature is of your interest in a subject, sometimes it's not just the subject, sometimes it's the person. Sometimes you just want to get to know and be friendly. Well, in case you guys are interested in this particular subject, that being all things supernatural regarding Ed and Lorraine Warren and their efforts on the East Coast, but mainly East Coast, but other places, and coming from a kind of a Catholic frame of mind, reference point, roughly speaking, but they're pretty friendly to everybody else, including people of my faith. But it's just that on the East Coast, you get a lot more Catholics in particular, and also Protestants. So, and also Jews and stuff. So that the culture on the East Coast is obviously more that way, and so you're gonna get that flavor. And I'm very familiar with that whole thing. I don't have to live on the East Coast. This is something that is still fairly familiar to me. I know people from the East. I had a Jewish anthropology teacher from New York City area, for instance, amongst many other people. Loved him to death. Greatest guy in the world. Love him. Sure, he was liberal. Who cares? So, yeah, Dr. Lonnie Sonnemer. So, anyway, I digress. So Tony Spara, he was a cop when he was younger. He says he wasn't the most amazing cop in the world. Basically, he was a more soft-hearted cop. And yeah, he has been with Ed and Lorraine Warren for quite a while, helping them for quite some time. That's his life work, along with being a cop and some other, stuff like that. That was one of his life's work, strong interest, that sort of thing. He knows a lot about dealing with some crazy stuff. So he has a lot of great things to talk about. So I have some things to mention in this regard, and they might not always go down well. They probably will be misunderstood, but I still need to talk about them. Very much so. But I have to say, before I say anything else, I've made videos about Catholicism, or at least a few. It's definitely for me, it's really easy for people to jump ship or to, I'm sorry, that's not quite the right phrase. It's very, very easy for people to misjudge me or to assume I'm going to be saying something that I'm not really saying. Or, when it comes to these faiths that have millions and millions and millions of people, billions, 8 billion at least, in the case of Catholic faith, my ancestors were Catholics, obviously. I mean, some of it's just for cultural reasons, a lot of Southern German ancestry, Swiss Germans, that sort of thing. So so of course they're Catholic. So I mean, it's a no-brainer. If you're Bavarian, you're gonna have some Bavarian ancestors that are Catholic. Same thing if you're Polish, man. It's like it's a no-brainer. If you're Russian, it's a good chance you have some Orthodox roots. Whatever. So So, yeah, so I've tried to reach out to Tony. I still will do that repeatedly. I still think that he'll respond at some point. But I have to realize the man is getting old. He's pushing 70 now. And the older that one gets, the less time one has for just stuff that they have less interest in. If they ever indulge in anything that less than their interest. I'm going to probably get more particular about what I want to do at the time. That's just the nature of the beast. And by the way, this is one of the reasons why it's so hard for members of my faith to always do things that are kind of contrived, or not contrived, but just these family home evening groups, or that's just where we get together and we talk about scriptures, and so many of us, the older we get, if we're single, we just want to do what we want to do, and we have not a whole lot of patience for all that stuff. So, but that's a side note. I'm not an old man, by the way. I won't consider myself to be old for I don't know how long. So, anyway, but respect to all the old people out there. I don't consider you old. I just consider you more experienced in life. That's basically it. So, yeah. How can I say this? And this is say, look, guys, this is definitely not just Tony. It's Ryan Buell. It's the Warrens. Anybody who's Catholic. Anybody who, any, gosh, man, so far-reaching. In my faith, we, like the Catholic faith, have a priesthood. There's the priesthood exists as a structure, not just a governmental structure, not just organizational structure, but it's a spiritual power in our beliefs. And that spiritual power, there's many different facets to it, but it's a kind of also protection as well. There's different kinds of spiritual protection that we believe in. Without getting too much into it, we all have the protection that comes from being children of God, and that the Lord Jesus Christ is our Savior, that sort of thing. When we call on them, we have protection. There's a lot of other factors going on regarding other things. Sin can lessen spiritual protection, yes. Kind of like cracks in a foundation of a house, stuff can seep in, We don't always understand the full nature of our spiritual protections and what's going on psychologically, but in our own self and souls. But yeah, I mean, I do believe, of course, I believe in all these unseen things that we can't understand. And so in our faith, there's so many things that I guess you'd say, I wouldn't say prevent, but there's so many things that are shields, that are safeguards against evil. So oftentimes we tend to not experience things that other people experience from other faiths. But that's just, that's just, sorry, that's just a theological belief in the power of the priesthood in my faith. That's not always so much talking about most anything else. It's just, I believe in the power of the priesthood in my faith. But we all have the power that comes from being children of God. We all have the power to pray and call on His name. That's universal. And so when it comes to things like demons and, demonic possession, it can happen to a lot of different folks. But it often happens, in my experience, when you have a place or you have people that have engaged in some very dark practices indeed over a period of time that have lessened their spiritual protections. And there are many different forces at work because we have guardian angels that are watching out for us, ancestors. We don't know about other angels of heaven, St. Michael the Archangel, to use a Catholic term, but we believe in Michael too, sure. Michael is the same being as Adam, who's one of the creators of the earth. We believe that. That's a little bit unique to us, maybe. Adam, the Lord Jesus Christ, and God. The main three that we know of. But sure, St. Michael, yeah, he's the same guy. He's the same guy as Adam. St. Michael the Archangel. It's Michael, and there's three other guys that, I guess, different four corners of the earth. Uriel, I don't know, the other. Gabriel, I think Gabriel is the same being as Noah. Yeah, it's the same person as Noah. We believe in all those guys, or at least we believe that they were good men. They're not quite like the Lord Jesus Christ, right? But they are godly men, of course. The most godly of godly men. And so they will definitely be helping you out. But there are practices that can invite evil spirits. Many different kinds of practices. We don't have to get into what they are right now. Tony knows what I'm talking about. And if he doesn't touch on all of them because of the need to be not bring up things that are not generally brought up in polite society, right? Even if he doesn't bring them up, he still knows what they are. Catholics and Mormons have a great deal in common, more than we realize. We just, as Mormons, we don't. This is the funniest thing. We see scary movies sometimes. We're told not to sometimes, but we see these scary movies. We're very familiar. If we see these movies, we're rather familiar with the whole idea of exorcisms and what they are. If we follow stuff very close in this area, the prayer of Saint Peter, the Roman rite of exorcism, all this stuff. Yeah, this is stuff that we pick up on, even if it's often just from media. I haven't known a single Catholic in my entire life, though. Not a single one who is really familiar with this stuff. Most Catholics I know go to church on occasion, not very often. And they're basically just Christian. They're not like Catholic. That's okay. But this is just what I grew up with, who I grew up with, being in Washington State. Washington State, if you're not secular, humanist, atheist, whatever, agnostic, if you're not that way, you're probably either Catholic, Lutheran, my faith, or the smattering of other Protestant churches that are just all over the place. In Eastern Washington, you get more Christians. In Western Washington, you get more agnostics and atheists and Buddhists and stuff. So, I mean, if Tony ever sees this video, that's fine. It's just that The reason why we don't have exorcisms in my faith, the reason why we don't have all this stuff, we have blessings of homes, we have all this stuff, but we don't. There's all, there are differences, of course, but the difference being, we have priesthood ordinances, we have blessings of healing of sick, we have blessings on houses, we have blessings on people that have died at cemeteries. We do all that stuff. We can cast out evil spirits if you have Melchizedek priesthood and you're living in a godly manner. Yeah. Yep. And it's not as involved, as lengthy necessarily of a process to do this. It's just a different kind of process. And we respect our fellow Catholics for what they try to do to help other people. Absolutely. Absolutely. We're on the same page. We're both serving God. But I have my own intuitions and thoughts regarding why demonic possessions seem to happen in certain circles, certain cultures, certain areas more often. It's not. It's involved, folks. It's a very complex matter. We're not saying anything about righteousness or anything like that necessarily. It's more involved than that. It's more complex than that. But again, I've mentioned this before. One of the things that can invite evil spirits, and it generally doesn't involve possession, of course. Things like domination, manifestation, whispering thoughts in one's ear, all this stuff, all the things that aren't in full-on possession. This stuff happens more often when someone gets involved in just bad stuff, whether it's drugs, whether it's sexual stuff, whether it's witchcraft especially. Witchcraft is a huge thing because it's just like, hey, come on, folks, I want to talk to you, to evil spirits. So Tony's absolutely right. And Tony's had so much experience with all this stuff. There are things that Tony says, just like, thank you, Tony, thank you. Over and over again, he's saying things that are true and right. And I know they're right and true. I know the thing is he's personally experienced this stuff. And so it's like, yep, yep, you're right, Tony, you're right. And he knows this because he's personally experienced this. And I know this stuff because I have not experienced this. But my faith, I believe in my faith, things that it teaches. And they do teach a lot of this stuff that Tony's talking about. If a person has, as part of their spiritual belief, some kind of fascination with the occult, and that's a very broad term, and people can, get a lot of different definitions for that. But obviously what I'm talking about is they have a fascination with evil stuff. I've been told that the word occult means hidden knowledge. Okay, fine. So what I'm talking about is just the side of the occult that's evil, which some people think it's everything. But whatever it is, it's anything that points back to Satan. It's witchcraft. It's magic with a K at the end. It's all that stuff. Tarot cards, everything, all that stuff. And like there's different ways of I don't know. I hate to say it, but all the seances, so much of the ghost hunting, it's attracting the wrong sorts of spirits. Okay, I'm realizing this in real life. This is not just scary movie stuff, but in real life, what do we want? First off, what do we want? In real life, not just watching a scary movie, but in real life, we want peace and quiet. We want peace in our own souls. We want to move forward in life, not backward. We want our homes to be places that are protected from evil, if we have our heads screwed on right. We want greater knowledge of things, sure, but we want all these things. We want, if we go someplace scary, we want to be protected from the real evil that's there. If we encounter ghosts, we only want to encounter ghosts that are friendly, that are just dead human beings that are still hanging around Earth. And in case you guys are wondering, yeah, we believe that stuff in my church. We believe that after you die, you're still in this area, still in this Earth realm. You don't zip off to some other far away place that I know of. Who knows? Who knows? But yeah, I mean, so so whenever you have a supernatural experience, I would think that we'd want a supernatural experience that involves a goodly person or a perfect personage. And if you encounter a personage that's especially righteous, like an angel or God, you have to be actually transfigured, and that's a whole different. That's very interesting. Well, since I mentioned that, I'll go into that a little bit. In order to be for your body to be able to handle that kind of light, that kind of energy, God Himself, deity, God needs to kind of at least temporarily transform your body so that you won't be like basically incinerated. It's some serious energy, spiritual energy. It's blindingly white light. This is what happened to Joseph Smith, by the way, in case you want to research all that stuff on your own. Talk to the missionaries or whatever. But yeah, when you have an actual visitation from an angel, on some level, at least that has to happen. We have imperfect bodies that are mortal, flesh and blood. Angels have perfect bodies, flesh and bone, not blood. Angels can't die, right? It's a difference. We're just in a fallen state right now. We're not evil. It's just a different state of being. So in order to interact with these beings, we need to at least temporarily have a little bit of a change happen to us physically. Then we can go back to being mortal humans, so to speak. And I don't fully understand all the details of how this happens, but when when you interact with a human ghost on some level, a dead person, and they are indeed a dead person, you don't always know if it's a dead person or a demon. But there are ways to know. But it's always pay attention to your gut feelings about stuff. But dead human people, are generally pretty benign for the most part. And, we want sometimes to have these experiences. We don't always get these experiences. I don't know. I hear that that's what we're interested in. But when it comes down to things like demons, demons in real life, like haunted houses that are haunted by demons, right? Not just human ghosts and stuff. People have died that are. I don't think most people really understand what that's like. And Tony's had to deal with that stuff. Very dark places. Very dark places. This is why, yeah, it's worth watching his stuff. But it's important to watch it with a certain train of thought of not wanting to be fascinated. Fascination. There's a fascination with evil. You don't want to be fascinated with evil. You want to be fascinated by the spirit world because it's real. But to be fascinated with evil is definitely not healthy. It's not good. And Tony's tried to mention that. You should not have things like that as your religion. And so all these ghost hunting shows, that's what's wrong with them. There's a fascination with the darkness, with evil. If anybody ever encounters a demon, demons do try to masquerade themselves in so many different ways. That's where you get a lot of different origins of fantasy creatures a lot of times. To some extent, it comes from interactions with demons that people have had in the past, the ancient past and stuff. Sure, there's no doubt about it, but I realize that there's a lot of subject. There's a lot. It's hard to know sometimes, but yeah. And some demons are worse than others. Of course. When I hear stories of people talking to demons in mirrors, it makes me very concerned. It makes me very worried about that person. Because, nothing good can come out of interaction with a demon. They can give you all kinds of stuff, knowledge, whatever else in life, but it always comes with a price, and that price can be someone's very well-being, peace in their soul, joy. There's nothing worth the loss of that stuff, folks. Nothing. I think that's, if anything, like if Tony could say any one thing any one thing more than anything else, he'd be echoing what I'm saying right now. Just stay away from that stuff. But, again, I find it interesting when comparing, my faith and the Catholic faith, how they handle all this stuff. In case you haven't caught on to this, by the way, you're dealing with real evil when it's unmistakable. When it doesn't even have to do with always having bad smells in the area. Oh, that's often the case, but man, alive. You'll just know it in the pit of your stomach. It's unmistakable. I've been around real evil, especially once before. It is unmistakable. It takes every ounce of courage you have sometimes to deal with that stuff. No, we don't want that experience. All we want, I think many of us, we watch ghost shows and stuff and all this scary stuff. All we want is maybe a little bit more real life experience regarding the spirit world. But I think we'd rather interact with friendly spirits or righteous spirits. One of the two. We don't want to interact with demons, because demons are the enemies of our soul, especially Satan. All right, you guys take care. Talk to you soon.